It's my privilege this evening to introduce our speaker. Our speaker is a well-known speaker in this church. It's Pastor Thula Nkosi. He's an author, has conducted a lot of seminars within our church, and he has a lot of wealth in terms of church history. I personally am blessed with his ability to help us to know how to ethically respond to the knowledge that we receive in our church in relation to the world. Some of the most practical sermons that I've heard them at the feet of Pastor Thula Nkosi. May God bless him this evening, and may God use him. At this very moment, we're going to be rendered with a special item by Sandton Praise, and the voice that you hear thereafter is that of Pastor Thula Nkosi. May we be blessed.
We live in troubled times. Seems like the sun won't shine. When will we realize God is on our side? He hides us in His arms, protecting us from harm. It's good to realize God is on our side. Nothing can separate. He gives us strength to take all that this world may bring. God is on our side. God is on our side. God is on our side.
Who were functioning as a subcommittee of the BRI in the division, the Biblical Research Institute. Our task was to design a set of guidelines on how Adventists in Africa should respond to politics. Because the division noticed, particularly the GC, that with the advent of independence in Africa, a lot of Adventists were working for government. And in parts of this division, that was creating problems. I can't give you the details of the problems, but we ended up with a statement which was submitted to the union. Guidelines. It is not a policy. It is guidelines. I don't have time to discuss that now. So I'm glad to see you for this. Thank you very much. I also want to thank Pastor Hall and his wife for welcoming me to this church. I've known him. I knew the name while I was a child in my father's house. I used to see it in the TAD Outlook and in other church literature. I didn't know that I would come so close to the surname. I was born on the 9th of November. Every year on that day since 1998, I make a prayer that I don't make on any other day. And that prayer sustains me for the whole year. And God answers that prayer every week without fail. I survive on that prayer, which my wife does not even know it, because it has nothing to do with her. She was not born on the 9th of November. It has something to do with me. I did not share my birth with anybody. I'm not a twin or triplet or whatever. Yeah. So I decided that on that day, I should make a special request to God. I thank Him for a full year. And on that day, I also plan for my new year. I don't start in January 1. I'm not part of the masses. I was born on the 9th. When you people end the year, for me, it's the beginning of the year. That's why I already know where I'll be this coming November. Because my plan is set. I don't want life to take me by surprise. There's a reason why I'm telling you this story. You'll understand as we discuss today's topic, created for significance. Created for significance. I've been struggling. Right. Now, let me tell you one decision I made this past November. I made a decision after going through reflections and observations of why people fail. You remember I talked about this yesterday? I made a decision that in my own little corner, I want to attack the kingdom of darkness in the church. Because we are under captivity to foreign knowledge systems. When I say foreign, I mean unbiblical. 2013, I was asked to be part of a team asked by the union to evaluate the Bethel College High School. And for 1 hour, I struggled with a teacher who had studied in a local university, helping her how to understand how to integrate faith in a science lesson. She couldn't. At the end of that attempt, with all the illustrations I'd given her, she said, I just can't understand this. She had a mind block. Why? She was educated outside of the system. So one of the reasons why some of our schools are producing half Adventists is that the teachers who work there were not cooked in the system. You can't teach what you don't know. Because teaching is a subversive activity. I need to tell you this. There is nothing as subversive as the teaching profession. It makes kingdoms, it breaks kingdoms. That's why governments are concerned about what happens at school. Because they know schools can change a nation. All governments are interested in what happens in the classroom. That teacher who shuts a door behind him changes lives, changes societies, subverts kingdoms. A teacher in Germany some 500 years ago would always walk into his class and bow before the boys he was teaching. And one day they asked him, why do you always bow before us? He said, I'm bowing to the future leaders of this country. Out of that class came Martin Luther. We are here because of him. Because of that teacher who bowed before him. That's why in talking about teachers, Ellen White in the book Counsels to Parents and Teachers says, smile, teacher, smile. For the child you see now, you will meet around the throne of grace. In Deserve Ages, she says, it is a sin to show an angry face to a child. People lack love in this country and all over this world. You have no right to display an angry face to people. Let me tell you, we don't experience pain the same way. Your anger might collapse me. We don't experience pain the same way. That's why kids don't learn by psychology. You use psychology to teach them, but they learn by logic. You need to understand that. They want to learn, kids learn by seeing patterns in behavior, patterns in speech, patterns in language, patterns in vocabulary, patterns in thought, patterns in systems. And when they see that there are conflicts, they suffer dissonance in their minds. My mother is not telling the truth. But he's not doing the truth, but he said this to me. A boy was here this morning selling vegetables, and my mother said there's no money. But he has just given me money to buy bread in the shop. Kids record that. They record that. Perhaps sometime this week I need to talk about the children in a hermeneutic cycle, because this is one of the challenges we have in the church. People don't know how to handle young people because we don't know that kids become adults in front of our eyes without us knowing. Some of you are older than your age. Experientially. Yes. That is one of the reasons why you are going to have a clash with your partner in marriage. Because you have over-experienced life. You have over-experienced life. You have been overexposed to certain things. I've observed as a premarital counselor that most of the what we call marital problems have nothing to do with marriage. They have something to do with stuff we neglect or do before we marry. And the devil covers this stuff in a foil and unfolds it after the wedding. And then you diagnose the problem. It is the trick of the devil for you to misdescribe the problem so that you can also misprescribe the solution. And so this thing keeps going on and on and on. Yesterday I told the Calvin Church that the major reason why, the only reason why Adventists divorce for this has nothing to do with adultery, lies, money, and so on. It is the fact that we break the Sabbath. Failure to keep the Sabbath holy is the reason why Adventists divorce. If you study the Bible, but with the Old Testament carefully, and go to Ellen White, you'll discover that on Sabbath, there should be no conflict in your life. The Sabbath is God's antivirus system in time to remove the rubbish of the previous week so that it does not go into the next week. That's why every grudge must end on Friday. Every grudge, I don't care how big it was. Whether you slept with 10 women, that must stop on Friday. Somebody needs to confess to someone on Friday so that there can be peace on Sabbath. Give your life a Sabbath. Give your life a Sabbath. I told a lady some years ago who said to me, I'm leaving my husband. I said, why? No, I've not loved him. When did this start? No, the night of our wedding. I said, for 6 years. You've been lying to the church. Because we thought you loved your husband. What happened? No, I asked him for sex and he said he was tired. And so my love for him ended that day. And then I said to her, for 6 years you gave the church the impression that you're in love with your husband. The day this matter lands on the board, I'll stand as a prosecutor. For two things. One, you've been breaking the Sabbath consistently for 6 years. 3, you have been lying to the church for 6 years. She left church and she's gone even now. Joined another denomination. Be careful of the Sabbath. It is not a day. It is more than a day. It is the antidote against sin. That's why Ezekiel says they should remember myself because I do something to them on that day. What do? I sanctify them. To sanctify is bigger than just washing. It's something that comes from within. It cleans you inside out. It's not dry cleaning. So if your marriage broke some years ago, you need to ask the question, why? Why? All the reasons you gave were false reasons. You were breaking the Sabbath. With your husband or your wife. We're talking created for significance. Created for significance. Created for significance. Every human being is marked by a hunger for positive self-identity. Every human being is marked by a hunger for positive self-identity. You want to know that you are somebody, not something. And the worst thing you can do to somebody is to make him feel like something. When God created us, He did not create average people. Social sciences have destroyed our identity. We're called normal beings. There's no such thing. In fact, that word does not appear in the Bible. I've read the Bible 8 times through. That word does not appear in the Bible. You'll never see God describing people and things as normal. Because normality belongs to the realm of sin. There's nothing normal about people made in the image of God. God is not a normal being. He's not even supernormal. He's extraordinary. God is even bigger than being extraordinary. He's unique. I don't even know how to explain him. You know, Winston Churchill once described the old Russian empire, Soviet Union, as a mystery hidden inside an enigma. You know, a mystery is not a secret because somebody knows a secret. Mysteries are not known. Now, an enigma is a compounded mystery. That's how God is. We can't explain him. Even the best vocabulary cannot explain God. God is beyond definition. That's why one of the things God will never tell us is where he came from. He would stop being God. Yesterday we said God has no from, isn't it? Yeah. There's no such thing as from with God. We all have a concern for who I am. Who am I? A concern for where I'm located in relation to others. Who am I in relation to this church, in relation to this community, and so on? We all want to know where we stand in relation to the universe. A concern for how I'm seen and defined by others. Concern for what I can do to enhance my standing in life. These are the primary concerns. In fact, on Wednesday I'll be talking on Maslow. Abraham Maslow was wrong. Some of you have read psychology and sociology and management studies. I want to tell you, Abraham Maslow was utterly wrong. He missed the point because he was an evolutionist and an atheist. That's why he is concerned about physiological needs. Jesus says, seek ye first. There's something bigger than food. It is his kingdom. And when you are in that kingdom, the food is supplied automatically. He says, and these things shall be added. It does not say you'll have to ask for them. One of the reasons why we are ever in a search for things is that we're not in the kingdom. We're in a republic. We think God was voted for. God was not voted for. We found him here. He's not the product of a manifesto. Number 2, impact on community needs. There's a desire to validate one's existence in the world. All of us have this. Want to know. In Zulu we say, ukushinduke bandla. Yeah, ukushinduke bandla. The literal interpretation is to leave a stick in the community. It makes it nonsense. But the proverbial meaning is, before I die, I want to leave a legacy. Because I'm a who, I'm not a what. I love the story of Zacchaeus. We read it in Luke. The Bible says he was short. But he wanted to see who Jesus was, not what Jesus was. Because he had discovered that the whats did not satisfy him. So he needed a who in his life. Yeah. A passion to contribute to the welfare of humanity. A thirst for legacy formation. I've always told people that the 21st century is a century for legacy formation. Some of us are busy living in the 19th century. Busy searching for themselves. Psychologists in the last century used to say the group is the major discovery of the 20th century. Let me tell you something. The group is dead. God is looking for you, not for you, plural. The group is dead. Group life is dead life. It is life in conformity to people's wills, not God's will. The group must die. The group must die. Hashtag the group must fall. God is looking for you, not the group. Created in God's image, Genesis 1, 26, 27, God said, we have a God who speaks. Yeah. Of course, they were speaking in the plural. So they were shouting in chorus. No, we don't know. We can't explain what happened before we were there. Moses was merely given a record. And he put it in his Hebrew language. God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. We're the only ones who are made according to the image of God after our likeness. This makes us divine. And when this happened, the devil said, I'll fix them. I'll show them that I'm better than they, better than them. I come from heaven. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. God is in him, has the fullness of all life. It does not need to be a male or a female to give birth. He is a creator. God is a creator. And creation is bigger than invention. You see, this was invented. But iron was created by God. You study the book of Genesis. You're going to see wonders there. Rotation begins on the second day, first day. And the evening and the morning was the first day. Rotation. And the sun arrives in between verses 14 and 19. So rotation does not depend on the sun. I'm teaching you biblical geography, not the geography you learn at school. Rotation begins before the sun arrives. The sun is then given, delegated the job of controlling movements. But these movements happened before the sun arrived. Just like light comes from God, not from the sun. There was light before there was the sun. The sun is merely the universal ESCOM that sends light to the universe. Nature is acting as delegates to serve us. This universe was made for us. Yeah, that's why it is not a sin to explore the moon. It's not a sin. I remember when human beings landed on the moon, of course there are theories about whether they went there or not, No, these conspiracy theories, there are many. Yeah, in this world you can build and destroy anything you like. People said, I remember in a Dasa conference, people asking the question, is it a right for human beings to explore space? You read chapter 2 of the book Education and understand the level of intelligence that Adam had. Ellen White says he had the power to study what holds the stars together. The movements of the stars. Super intelligence. We have not fully understood how perfect and how intelligent Adam was. What I was thinking the other day, you know every brain does make jokes to itself, isn't it? I was thinking when I was bathing that if I were to see the grave of Adam, it would be very long. Longer than our graves. Because the guy was tall. Yeah. And over the years, the graves have become shorter and shorter and shorter. And these days, some of us don't even get buried. We burn them. One day, some people wake up and wonder why you burned them. Before God does the job. Created to be thinking, responsible beings. This was the purpose of God making us in his image after his likeness. Ellen G. White says, every human being created in the image of God is endowed with a power akin to that of the Creator, and this is what public education does not deal with. Because it places man at the center of education. Child-centered education. We use these glorious terms and so on, and we think they're talking wisdom. It's all utter foolishness. It's rust. Rust. And then we write big theses about these things. It's all rust. Some of us who went to university will get to heaven and discover we never started going to school. Honestly. You'll be shocked at what you should have learned and what you should not have learned. That's why I don't need to be proud. You see, education was not meant so that you can be introduced. Some of us think, I'm going to get a degree and so on, so that can be true. That is not the function of education. Have you ever listened to somebody and introduced someone else, and when that person speaks, you wonder if the introduction was true? We call it regressive literacy. Regressive literacy. Literacy which is below what is reported. And many of us are in that zone. The zone of regressive literacy. We are employed on the basis of our certificates, but we perform lower than those certificates. And this is one of the crises in South African service delivery. The power to think and to do. So there has to be these two things, thinking and doing, not just thinking. Some years ago, when I was in Pretoria, I went to a library and found Mr. Teledi pondering over something. And I said to him, Mr. Teledi, this was a high school in which I was teaching in Atteridgeville. What are you doing? He said, I'm thinking the thought. I said, what thought? He said, I'll tell you one day. He had just lost a manuscript of a book he had written after giving it to a friend to review. And the friend said, I lost the manuscript. So that morning he discovered, he says to me, yesterday I went to Van Skyke Publishers, and I discovered my book there with that man's name under a different title. So I'm thinking of the idea of leaving school to go to University of the North to study law for this man. That was the thought. So one day I opened the Sandton, I find a story. Mishak Teledi is a magistrate in Polokwane. I said, woe unto that writer. He's not just a lawyer, he's a magistrate. He's ready to sentence him. I've not met him ever since. I wish I could find out what happened to the thought. What happened to the thought? Power to think and to do. You know what impressed me about that? He carried out what he was thinking. Yeah. Those who do management studies, project design, know that if the distance between the creation of an idea and its implementation becomes long, the idea may falter on the way. Act as you think. Act as you think. Don't delay. It is the work of true education to develop this power, to train the youth to be thinkers. We said yesterday, not to think, but to be thinkers. There's a difference. Everybody thinks, but not everyone who thinks is a thinker. You see, the Bible, when it comes to goodness, uses agent nouns, but when it comes to badness, it uses verbal forms. The Bible will never call you a thief. It says you have stolen. God says you have robbed me. Don't say you are robbers. In the story of the publican and the Pharisee calls the publican by agent nouns. He says robbers, evildoers, adulterers. Sinners have a tendency of branding other sinners. You see, the agent noun brands you permanently in that state. So if Sbongani is described as a thief, each time I see him, I lift the theft card. And yet he may be converted. Jesus always uses the verbal form. He says you have stolen. Because he is hoping that tomorrow you will not steal. So that our youth should not be mere reflectors of men's thought. You know, this problem of the last phrase starts at home. You are disgracing us. What will people say? This is how we're brought up. All of us are brought up to conform. All of us are brought up to conform. Instead of saying you are disgracing God, you see this knowledge system. It's humanistic. We are disgracing us. You're not disgracing God. And then they come to church, they tell you about God, but at home they tell you about society. You see the conflict? You see the conflict? At home, it is society that is the norm. In church, it is God who is the norm. So, which way do you go now? Tell your kids they're disgracing God, because ultimately it is God to whom they are accountable, not to you. That's why many of us will die and leave kids who left church. Some will come back after we are dead. It happens. There are such families in this country. She continues, the Christian, all right, this author, this is a book written by Adventist language scholars. They had a conference in 1978, and here is one statement they write. The Christian view of man sees him created in the image of God and capable of intelligent action and hence of nobility. That's why when a Christian teacher goes to class, he must pray first. Because you don't know. One writer says, as you close that door, you shut some of the minds in and you shut others out. He says the closing of that door behind the teacher is a metaphor of what you might do to them. Some of us were destroyed in the classroom. That's why the teacher must never think he's the best teacher. You are merely attempting to imitate Christ, the higher teacher. So don't make yourself the norm. Because in every classroom, there's a child who is more intelligent than the teacher. I'm being honest with you. Every classroom has a child who's more honest than the teacher. I was once asked by a child in a geography class, why do we need to travel to the United States? Why can't we get into a helicopter? Stand in space since the earth rotates until the United States arrives, then we drop on them. It was clever, but of course it was not practical. Because you must now apply to be in the airspace of many countries, isn't it? While you are up there. And all of you know that when a vehicle is at a standstill position, it uses more fuel than it is in motion, isn't it? Yeah, it would be very costly, but the idea was clever. That question came from reasoning. Never think you're the wisest person in this world. Some of us, while we speak, think, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I know better. I know better. They are saying, the Christian view sees man as a creature capable of understanding human intents and actions and of making free choices. It sees him capable of creative action, able to move his society towards an imagined and expected world where sorrow and sighing shall pass away. You know, one of the problems I have in this country is that politicians think they own us. That's why I told my family, I'll never wear a T-shirt with somebody's head on my chest. I also have a head. I'll never do that. I'll never do that. I also have a head. I can't let another foolish head stay on my chest. I'm not going to allow that. I also have a brain. I'm not here to hero worship people. There's one hero in the universe. God. God is the hero. Not human beings who change from morning to morning. We need to understand that we're creatures of value. The image of God in man was intended to give us unique identity and selfhood so that humans will be different from animals. Yeah. The Concise also dictionary says, on significant, having a meaning, indicative, noteworthy, important, consequential. We all seek for these things. We all seek for these things. It is part of a regular human desire to know that you are valued, that you mean something to somebody, and that there is a statement in your life. There is something that indicates purpose in your life. You are not just one of a number. The Brotherhood Journal has this statement, God made man to be somebody, not just to have things. You are not what you have. Many of us are owned by things they have. One writer says the things are on the saddle and they ride us. And in a country as materialistic as South Africa has become, people think how they look is who they are. How they dress is who they are. How they groom themselves is who they are. Start from inside. Start from inside. Stop showing us the outside. We have enough of the outside. I often ask young people who have seen the faces on Facebook. Ne? Yes. But where is the book? It's Facebook. It's not just face. It's Facebook. We've seen the faces. Show us the book now. Show us the book. Where is the book in Facebook? Why are we seeing legs and thighs and private parts and breasts and all these things and sophisticated hairstyles or unsophisticated heads? Why? People have become gods. They are worshiping themselves. Worshiping themselves, showing us stuff we should not be looking at. And if that's all you have to show, you have nothing to show. If that's your address, then you are lost. If your address is you, and not Jesus Christ, then you have lost. You are lost. Stop lifting yourself. We are looking for Jesus. We are looking for Jesus. Significant, not normal. Your significance as a person is derived from your higher origin. God consulted himself, not nature, to create you. I once spoke about the Sabbath before creation. Because in that week of creation, God was merely fulfilling what he had been thinking. He saw the Sabbath from the first day. That's why yesterday we said the Bible should teach us to reason from consequence to cause, rather than from cause to consequence. Because that's a very shallow way of thinking. It's easy. Any fool can reason from cause to effect. But only Bible readers can reason from consequence to cause. And that's the function of prophecy, to show us that everything we do has an end. Consider the end, then you'll know how to begin. Your life should not be governed by preferences and standards of a fallen world. Some of us are captives to ideas from a fallen world. Yesterday we said, what coat are you wearing? Whose coat are you wearing? Whose voice counts in your life? Is it the voice of the snake? Or the voice of the maker? There are only two voices. There are just two voices. One has a single tongue, the other has a forked tongue. Whose voice are you listening to? Theology or snakeology? Whose voice are you listening to? Whose voice are you listening to? Parable of the talents. What have you done with your significance? That's what Jesus was literally asking them. What have you done with what I planted in your life? Uzoshiyani maufa. There's a large cathedral in the British Isles called the St. Paul's Cathedral. It was designed by a man called Sir Christopher Wren. There's a plaque not far from that, in that vicinity. All it reads is, if you want to see his work, just look around. Just look around. What are you leaving behind? That's the question I'm asking you today. You can only answer that question meaningfully and productively if you know who you are. Stop being a shadow of yourself. The worst thing you can be is to be me, because I don't want to be you. I will be poor when I'm you. You will be rich when you are you. Don't imitate me. I'm not designed to be you. And I don't need to imitate you. I'm not designed to be you. You're not designed to be me. Stop copying people. Copy Christ. Copy Christ. Christ is the model for the Christians. We say we're Christians because we're following Christ. Basically, that's the story. That's the story. That's the story. Who are you following tonight? Who are you going to be praying to tonight? Which God will you kneel before this evening? The God of complaints? Or the God of hope? The God of Job? Or the God who says, if you have gone through this trouble, it means there's no God. You know, there's a continuum in the Bible that I love. There's Job on one side, there's the devil on the other. We swing between them. You can never be more evil than the devil. You can never suffer more than Job. You are savable. You are in the realm of being saved. There'll never be a day when God will invite Gabriel and say to him, hey, I have never seen this. You see that guy? He's more evil than Satan. Never. So don't imitate a man you can never beat. You can never be worse than the devil. You'll always be an inferior product of the devil. Go for gold. May God bless you.